This episode of DV is a thrilling one. Riding in the backwoods of Hong Kong is a sport that few even knew existed. Spinning dirt and jumping ramps, these extreme athletes have been promoting their passion, traveling around the world to compete at the highest levels. While often overlooked, their sport has not gone unnoticed.
Fame, glory, recognition. These are all things that an elite athlete at the top of his or her game can look forward to if he or she does well. In recent years, Hong Kong has done very well in certain sports. We even won a few Olympic medals. We're talking about cycling, fencing, and karate. Now I want to ask you, what is the value in doing a sport where you get dirty, it's dangerous, and few people know you? I'm here to tell you about one of those sports today, and I am excited. Can you tell us about the sport of motocross?
越野電單車咧，其實就係一種好好玩嘅一種運動嚟嘅。以泥地啦，走山路啦，飛上飛落啦。
All right, so what motocross is this very exciting all-terrain sport that's outdoors. It combines kind of the natural environment as well as some jumps and some obstacles. How did you get into this sport?
我自己中意單車啦 ，BMX 啦，啱啱80年代頭。咁咧有個機會就跟朋友去粉嶺，咁見到人哋喺山度揸越野電單車，咁覺得哇好刺激喎！
So Angus got into sports in the early 80s. He was a BMXer, and one time he followed a friend to Fanlang, and he saw motocross, and he saw these bikes flying in the air, and he got really excited about it, and that's how he got into the sport. Now, I know you were, for a few years, a professional full-time biker as well. Tell us about that experience.
慢慢參加本地嘅比賽啦，被邀請去參加國際賽啦，跟住走到少少成績啦，跟住內地有啲商業贊助，咁佢哋又俾咗啲車啊資源啊各方面去 support 我哋。
So after contacting the sport in the early 80s, he had an opportunity to take part in some local races. And really fell in love with the sport, and of course he did pretty well, and that graduated him to going overseas, to mainland, to do some competitions in Asia as well. On the mainland, came in contact with some commercial enterprises who wanted to sponsor him, and that's how the team came about. If you really want to get good at the sport, at what age should you start?
5、6歲左右啦，最好係識有基本踩單車嘅平衡基礎啦。
Okay, so starting at age 5 or 6, and if you have basic bicycle skills, it'd be a big advantage. For the kids who come, are there going to be more boys?
都好多小妹妹嚟學㗎，差唔多50%。係啊。
Okay, so it's not just boys who play this. Of the kids who come, it's about 50-50 boys and girls, because a lot of the girls want to get in touch with more extreme sports and the great outdoors. What are the challenges that come with promoting the sport in Hong Kong?
香港一個彈丸之地啊，真係揾個合適嘅地方真係出邊去參加比賽咧，都要借助外界好多唔同嘅地方嘅場地再去補習啊。
So the biggest challenge about promoting the sport in Hong Kong, it sounds like, is to find land to do this on. Because of course Hong Kong, concrete jungle, limited resources in terms of land. So you have to find a place that you can practice the sport, but you're saying even if you want to graduate and do better and get to competition level, sometimes you have to travel outside of Hong Kong, go to the mainland or Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
How many people in Hong Kong actually have experienced or partake in motocross?
估計都有2、3萬人。咁而家我估計喺香港活躍玩呢個運動都有2、3千人。
Since he contacted the sport in the early 80s, maybe 20 or 30,000 people have come in contact with the sport. And these days, there are probably about 2,000 or 3,000 active riders in Hong Kong. In all the years you've been doing this, are there any stories or experiences that stick out in your mind?
咁去到廣州參加比賽，第一次見到啲國家運動員同高手過招咧，哇！點知佢哋個速度快我好多，咁我可以想拼命去追啦，咁點知完成唔到賽事，仲受咗傷。
Back in the mid-80s, 1985, you already had some achievements in Hong Kong, and you went for your competition in Guangzhou, and that competition brought along competitors from all around China. You kind of got a glimpse of, wow, this is a different league because a lot of the riders in that competition were national team riders, and they're riding at a much higher level at higher speeds. And because you're riding with these guys, you wanted to push things a little bit, got injured and was actually unable to finish the competition, but it opened up your eyes. How did that change you as a rider?
又不斷要去改進啦，咁啊喺07年咧，俾我哋第一次攞到嘅年度總冠軍。
Wow!
囊括咗3屆。
So it sounds like from these experiences, you really took a lot away from them. You came back, you saw the world, you're like, I have to analyze, fine-tune, and improve myself. In 07, 08, and 09, you guys achieved some really good results. You won the China Motocross Championships in 07, won again in 08, and then in 09, you said with a bit of luck, you guys were also able to take #1. And because of those 3 years, you know, that did a lot for Hong Kong motocross because people kind of start to see we can achieve results, especially with hard work, with focus, and that attracted a lot of people to the sport as well. What's the future of Hong Kong motocross like?
我好有信心，因為香港近年咧攞到好多奧運獎牌啦。香港一個細小地方咧，香港人真係好勤奮，同埋將來我相信大灣區俾到更多嘅地方咯。
So it sounds like the future for this sport is pretty bright. You see a lot of good results coming out of the motocross world here in Hong Kong because in recent years, Hong Kong's been doing quite well in sports. We saw that at the Olympics, and obviously it's proven that even with limited resources, Hong Kong athletes are able to perform at a very high level. And of course, to look bigger, you have Zhuhai and other parts in the Greater Bay that has lots of land and is close to Hong Kong, so it offers many opportunities for Hong Kong athletes to kind of travel to these places to train.
So I started riding when I was 7. I was watching a TV show that was introduced at motorsport. So I told my mom that I want to ride, and then she bought me. So I started riding since then.
Do you remember your first experience as a 7-year-old? I mean, these things are pretty big, they're loud. What was the feeling like?
That was exciting. I started riding on a smaller bike, and then when I first started, I never stopped. My mom had to tell me that, like, hey, stop, take a break.
Tell us about the level of commitment for someone who wants to get into this sport. What do you need to do?
You need to have passion of riding. Otherwise, you're gonna give up like easily. When I was 7, and then I think there may be like 10 kids, and then all of them, they gave up.
All of them?
All of them.
You're the only one left?
Yes. Because training is hard, and then sometimes you crash, and then running is expensive, and then you have to train like after school, or train Saturday, Sunday. My friends always ask me to hang out, and then I never go. I say, I'm gonna ride, I'm gonna train. In Hong Kong especially, it's harder, and track is small, and then nobody's gonna support you. All you do is like, you have to love the sport, and then you can continue riding.
Tell us about your training routine on a monthly or weekly basis.
Because I'm riding not like professional. Because before, when I have to race, I would train like 2 months ahead. I would run every day. I would do push-up. I would ride a lot. Because the racing is like 20 minutes plus 2 laps. So basically it's like 25-minute race. Okay. So I would keep riding on a bike non-stop for like 40 minutes. So get my body prepared for the race. Like I would do a lot of push-up, but not like the regular push-up. Just like that. You do push-up, and you do like 40 minutes of it. So
40 minutes of push-up?
Like that, not like the regular push-up.
Wow, okay.
So you make your body, you make your arms strong enough to go on a bike for like 25-minute races.
If you had to summarize what the thing that you've gotten most out of the sport, what is it?
I would say commitment. Like once you're on a bike, you have to be 100% commit. Otherwise, if you think of other stuff, or when you do a jump, and then on the halfway, you thought about other stuff, then you might crash.
Off the track, are you a car driver or do you drive a motorcycle?
I just got my license.
Really?
Yeah, so I just got my motorbike license on the road.
No way!
Yeah, because my mom wouldn't let me to take a test. She says it's too dangerous.
So you've been riding these things, like these beasts, for many, many years, since you were 7, but you just got your motorcycle license.
Yes.
That is very funny.
On a road bike, it's easier to ride but then it's more dangerous because you go high speed, and then you got many things going around, cars,
Traffic conditions.
yes, stuff like that, and then you have to like really pay attention on what happened on the road. And compared to the riding experience, this bike, like my bike, the dirt bike is higher,
Okay.
and then we don't have the headlight,
Okay.
like we don't have like brake light, we don't have the signal, like we don't have to think about stuff like that. We just ride, we just want to
Right.
go fast.
Right.
On the road, you have to be careful.
What are the biggest challenges with the sport here in Hong Kong?
We don't get enough support. Like, let's say the track is small. Like, sometimes I go race out like in Taiwan or in like Korea, the track is much bigger. Then I have no idea how to ride because I never ride a track like that. In other places, people get sponsored on bike, on gear, but we have to pay our own.
I want to see you in action, Galen. So can you get on this thing and show us a few laps?
Yeah, sure.
Cool, thanks.
And we're back on the dirt road. The exhilaration continues as we find out more about the sport of motocross, the life of an athlete, and the training needed to be a champion. This could be the city's best kept secret, and we want to uncover more. Let's check in with Des as he watches Carlin take on the course like a pro.
Oh, hey, Karina.
你好，
This is super cool.
对，真是
Yeah, let's sit down because I want to hear more about your journey.
OK。
So tell us about your motocross journey. How do you get into this sport?
哦，我从16岁开始玩这摩托车，然后呢是跟朋友去看了一个比赛，然后觉得它很神奇、很好玩，然后就开始参与了这运动。
Tell me, in terms of the people who do this sport, are females in the minority?
在我玩的那个时候呢，整个中国大概有6个女性，然后玩这个摩托车。
6个.
对，6个，其实是很少的。
Are there female categories and male categories, or does everybody race together?
哦，在我比赛的时候，当时因为女性的人数很少，所以是很难的一起比赛的，没有分女子组这样子。但是今年就觉得和男生一起比赛很有意思，然后只要没有跑最后1名，然后就很开心。
Being in a sport that's mainly male dominated, are there any challenges being a female athlete?
当然，这个运动里面大多数都是男性呢，然后他们在体能上还有技术上都会有一个很大的挑战。曾经有一场比赛有24个人参加，然后只有我一个女的，然后在第1圈我带头跑了第1名。
It's amazing. I myself have a young daughter. What advice would you give to the little girls out there who want to play this sport?
我觉得这个运动对女性其实是一个很好的运动，她们只要不怕摔跤，然后不怕辛苦，不用怕很累，其实是很容易入门的。
Tell us, to become a champion in general in this sport, and also as a female athlete in a male-dominated sport, what do you need to do?
在这个全部是男生的运动里边呢，其实一个女生要玩需要付出的比男生还要大，好像1星期7天，有5天要去做体能的练习。 然后还有每天练习骑车最少3个小时。通常我们呢会每天早上起床呢就会先跑步5公里，然后就会骑车，然后2小时，到下午就会进行一些游泳啊、跑步，然后晚上就会进行一些力量的练习，然后来保持一个对体能的要求。然后玩这越野摩托车呢，通常它就体能要占60%，技术占40%。
I know you don't race anymore. What do you do to keep connected to the sport?
我现在呢就做一下教练，然后会教一些新人就怎么去玩这摩托车，然后有时候还会参与一些表演，然后就向更多的人展示这摩托车它的魅力所在。
If there was one piece of advice you would give to one of your students, what is it?
Motocross 就好像一个人生，它有不同的路面起伏，所以我们要不断的去征服它。
Wow, what an amazing story of resilience, commitment, and passion. She's a true inspiration for this sport, and I can't wait to try this myself. But how do we get started?
Can you introduce this training bike to us?
呢個係模擬你出去玩車嗰個坐姿啊，同埋個人嘅手啊、腳啊點樣操控啦。
So this training bike is really for you to simulate what you're going to experience out there in terms of body positions, your hands, your legs. Doing your training on this apparatus here, is it really going to simulate what we're going to experience out there?
都相似嘅，係啊。如果係你可以上去試下。
就咁上去。Okay. Okay. So you tells me that this is a pretty good representation of the real thing. What should I pay attention to now that I'm on this thing?
最緊要係平衡啦，首先要用你嘅方法平衡到架車先啦，就模擬你喺出邊揸車嘅平衡嗰個姿勢啦。
So should my bum be on the seat or should I be kind of on my legs the whole time?
如果係越野電單車咧，其實係長時間係好似騎馬咁半踎嘅，當你入彎先會坐低咯。
Okay, so now that I'm on, Ayu tells me that my main objective is to maintain my balance. It's all about keeping your balance on this thing. And I asked him, should my bum be sitting on the chair or should I be kind of on my legs the whole time? He said it's much like riding a horse. You're kind of off the saddle and you only sit down when you're going into turns. Where should my balance be? Should I be leaning forward a little bit, sitting back a bit? And what about left, right?
唔同入彎咧，通常架車落個人就反方向就喺另外一邊嘅。如果上針咧，就通常係向前向後都會嘅，同埋你唔同嘅彎啊、唔同嘅針啊個姿勢都唔同嘅，所以就呢個運動係全身嘅都要運用嘅。
Okay, so this is a full body workout because you really can't predict what's going to happen. You could be leaning forward or backwards when you're jumping, depending on when you take off and when you land. So if I'm going to get in an accident, I'm about to fly off, should I jump off the bike or should I stay with the vehicle?
盡量如果炒車咧就唔好離開架車啦，始終架車有避震咧，如果佢落地嗰下咧，起碼有頭尾避震幫你射咁啲力。
He said because the bikes have shocks both at the front and the back, it's better to stay with the bike and let the shock absorb some of that impact instead of trying to jump off. Because if you jump off, your body's going to take the full impact of the fall, and that's not good. Let's look at the bike. For the handlebars, for example, on normal bikes, usually I see there are 2 levers, 1 brake, 1 clutch. What's this little thing here?
依架車因為佢係4衝程，比較壓縮比大，佢依個掣咧就係幫你減壓，其他嘢咧就同普通電單車一樣啦。
Well, in terms of your hand controls, the handlebars, there's an extra lever here because this is a 4-stroke engine, he's saying. So when you start the car, to keep the pressure down a little bit, you would pull this so it's easier to start the car. But other than this, which you won't use after starting the car, everything else is the same as a normal motorcycle. So after I use this training bike here, I've mastered this, what's the next step?
會喺下低平路咧就行雪糕筒，都係操控你入彎嘅姿勢啊，或者操控你轉彎嘅動作咯。
So after I am done here with the training bike, the next step would be to go down there and start off on flat ground, doing circles and figure eights. And the reason for circles and figure eights is really to, once again, to get that feeling of the balance, but also to practice turning, the motion of turning. Let's say I'm able to get a good feel for riding on flat road, and now I'm on the track, I want to do some jumping. What are the things to pay attention to?
上針咧通常就係控制你比油啊，同埋落針咧就最安全，就係頭尾轆一齊落嗰個接位，個斜面位就最安全。後轆落地就有個危險性，如果你隻手收唔到油或者突然間加速咧，佢就會惡頭咁樣將架車飛咗出去，有個危險性咯。
In terms of jumping, the things to pay attention to when you go off the jump, it's about controlling your speed well. And then, of course, coming off the jump, it's the landing. And this is something I didn't know. I always thought when you land, you kind of land on your back wheel first, but you said, no, you want to try and land on both wheels. Because if you land on your back wheel, let's say you lose control of your speed and your gas. If you come down too slow or you give too much gas, you could kind of bump and crash off into the sky. What have you learned or gained from this sport?
得着就係你喺度操到咁上下咧，可以翻國內去鬥下車啊，或者去外國鬥下車咁咯，同埋當一個運動咯。
So what he's gotten out of the sport is, first of all, a sport, right? He feels like it's a sport that he really enjoys, and also once you get to a certain level, you can start joining some competitions, and those competitions has brought you to the mainland and to other overseas places as well. Man, I had an awesome day today, and it makes me love my job. I mean, look at this place. How cool is it? And I would never have known about it had I not been here to shoot. Now, from my conversations with our athletes today, I realized the overarching theme is you don't need fame, you don't need glory. If you want to excel at a sport, what you need is passion. I mean, listen to their stories. No place to train, no commercial sponsors. You have to use your own money, and you even have to compete in a gender class that's not your own. And you know what? They all did it, and they all excelled, and that's pretty cool.